Yesterday we got started talking about DNA replication and how we have to unzip the DNA and then reform two strands of DNA in preparation for our cells to divide. There's a whole lot of stuff that has to happen before we can get a second cell. And all of that stuff is going to happen during this phase, the interphase. We need to get the cell to grow bigger. We need to duplicate the organelles. We need to duplicate the DNA. That daughter cell has to be a perfect, exact replication of the mother cell. That's what we call them, the mother and the daughter cell. I don't know why. I know the first question is why? I don't know why. We just call them the mother and daughter cell. And so yesterday we started talking a little bit about how we unzip the DNA and then reform it. And the way that we reform this DNA, we have one strand that forms continuously as it unzips. But we have the second strand that has to form in the opposite direction. And so it has kind of this stutter. We call it the lag, just like a computer, the lagging strand. I've got a little video that I'm going to show you that kind of has an animation for you visual learners. So we have something called, I know this is a lot of words, but we have something called a helicase. Anytime you see the suffix ase, that just refers to some sort of enzyme. And so this helicase will come in and he's the guy that'll break apart the DNA. Then we have something called a polymerase, which is an enzyme that then rebuilds the DNA. Obviously, am I simplifying this to the nth degree? Of course I am. That's just the depth to which we need to go. So we have our lead strand, which is made continuously, and our lagging strand, which has to keep stuttering and going back because it's having to be reformed in the opposite direction. Let me show you just a little animation. It's just like a little 2-minute animation.
Fragments that he was talking about?
Yes. So where it has to do just a little bit at a time, each little bit, their official name is the Okazaki segments, and that's named for the guy that discovered them. And then these little segments have to be joined together. So the lead strand is a relatively easy, I say easy, I mean it's creating DNA. But the lead strand is relatively easy. It's the lagging strand that has all of these additional steps because of the direction that it has to be created. We're not going to go into too much more depth than that, though. So the interphase, when all of this stuff is happening in preparation to divide, we have interphase subdivided into these categories. Growth 1, or the G1 phase, this is where the cell doubles in size, right? If I have a cell and I want to turn this cell into 2 cells, I need the cell to be the size of 2 cells. And so during our G1 phase, the cell is going to double in its size. During our synthetic or synthesis phase, this is when the DNA is going to replicate itself. And then during the G2 phase, this is where the cell packs himself a lunch. He needs a lot of energy to go through and actively divide. And so what he's doing is he's getting proteins and enzymes and nutrients, and he's kind of hoarding all of this in order to give him the energy to actively go into the dividing phase. So G1, we're doubling in size. Synthesis, we're replicating. This is my interpretive replication dance. Point the toe. And then we have, thank you. And then we have our G2, where we are stockpiling the nutrients, the energy, and the proteins that we're going to need to go into active division. All 3 of these are part of interphase. They are all preparation. It's just telling you what preparation is being done at that time. So basically, interphase preparation. Yeah, interphase is just preparatory. Interphase is what do we have to do to this cell to get it ready to divide. We haven't even started dividing the cell yet. We're just getting it ready. And then these 3 phases of interphase is just telling you what is happening. G1, the cell is getting bigger. Synthesis, DNA division, love it. I know. G2, we're getting the nutrients, the energy, and everything we need. We haven't even started dividing yet. This is all preparatory. Once all this preparation has happened, now we start doing some magic. Now we're going to start getting ready and go into the active dividing phase, which is known as mitosis. Which, no, you're absolutely, we have several phases of mitosis, which again is just telling you what is happening. We have prophase.
Is that PMAT?
PMAT.
I don't know what it stands for. I just remember that.
PMAT stands for prophase,
Metaphase.
metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. Good, you guys. You already know. We could just go ahead and do the test right now.
No, thank you.
No?
We need to calm down. I need to recap. How did I get off the wheel?
Here I just have some pictures before we get into mitosis. This is just showing you the little video I showed you, the leading strand and the lagging strand. Here's another little picture. Our helicase coming in and busting up the joint. And then we have our polymerase coming in and reassembling so that we have 2 exact copies of the DNA. There's just yet another picture.
Ms. Puff,
Yeah.
are we supposed to know which proteins are the ones that help the lagging strand?
No, all I'm gonna really want is that you know that polymerase is the rebuilder and helicase is the destroyer. I say destroyer, the puller aparter. So there, once again.
Can you repeat that again, that the poly was the destroyer and the what?
So polymerase is what rebuilds the DNA. Helicase is what breaks the DNA apart. So here, we can see here, here we can see I have DNA, and I need to unzip this. Helicase is what's coming in here and unzipping it. Polymerase is what's coming in here and rebuilding it.
And then the ligase, that one does the lagging fragment?
Right, so this one here is the leading strand. So as we're unzipping, we can just go ahead and we're going in this direction, okay? This direction. Let me get my pen. We're going in this direction. Now this strand has to be rebuilt in this direction. So we unzip, I build. Actually, I'm going this way. Build. But then I have to come back and build. Then I have to go back to the next unzip, build. And that's why we call that the lagging strand. Yes.
Which one's the leading and which one's the lagging one?
So,
Isn't it the top one always going to be the leading one and the bottom one is always the lagging one?
well, I hate to say that because that's just the way that this picture is showing. So here, this one here, oops, pen. Wouldn't the leading be the one that's going towards the breaking? Yeah, the leading is going to be going towards where it's being unzipped. And the lagging is being built away from, because it keeps having to go back to where it's unzipped and hasn't been rebuilt yet.
And lagging goes where it's going to be rebuilt.
Where it's what?
Lagging those to get rebuilt.
Yeah, so they're both being rebuilt. It's just one of them takes a lot more work because of the direction it has to be rebuilt in. Once we have duplicated our DNA, we super hypercoil it. And so we have one strand of DNA. Here we have two strands of DNA. And these are still joined together in the middle. This is known as a chromosome. We have two perfect strands of DNA that are ready now to donate to each cell. So now we have done all of our preparation. We have replicated our DNA. We have grown the cell to double the size. We have got all the nutrients and proteins that we need. Now we can start actively dividing the cell. Now we get to start making a new cell. And the thing that I find absolutely crazy is that this is happening in you over and over and over right now. Right now, right this very second, you are creating cells.
How long does it take?
Depends on the cell. Honestly, it could take seconds. Just seconds for this to happen. Depends on the need. It also depends on your individual body. Like, we have things in place where this does not happen when we don't need it to. If our cells were just dividing all of the time uncontrolled, that's exactly what cancer is. Cancer is a cell that's gone rogue and just decides, you know what, I'm gonna just divide until my heart's content and you can't stop me. And then all of the cells that it creates start creating cells, and so on and so forth, and it's uncontrolled. And then you get this great big bundle of cells that are replicating uncontrolled, but those cells are not working. Those cells, like, so for example, if you have a liver cancer, those cells don't work like liver cells. So the more cells that are being created that don't work like liver cells, the less liver cells you have to work. And then you die of liver failure. So here we are going to be dividing and making a new cell. That's kind of, this is my picture of division here. And here, you got it, PMAT. There's the PMAT, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. That's a great way to remember the order that they go in. I love these pictures so much, I want to marry them. All right, so the first in the PMAT is prophase. So we're now exiting interphase, right? We're exiting our preparatory phase, and we're now entering active division. First step to that is prophase. The first thing that we have to do in prophase is all of our DNA is still enclosed in a nucleus. Well, that doesn't do me any good, does it? So what do you think I have to do? I got to get rid of the nucleus. I can't divide and share this DNA if it's all trapped inside this nucleus. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to start dissolving this nucleus and setting the DNA free. I also have what's called, we talked about this in the anatomy, a centromere. Centromeres are the little tug of war guys. And so these centromeres are going to start creating these little fibers, these little tug of war fibers. So the first thing, prophase, we got to get rid of the nuclear envelope, and we're going to start creating some tug of war spindles, some little tug of war fibers. That's what's happening during prophase. That's all that's happening. We're setting the DNA free, and we're getting everything ready to pull it apart. Give you You guys a minute, furiously writing. It's a little warm in here, isn't it? Is it just me? Okay.
I can't remember what the video we watched said, but I have like metaphase means middle and anaphase means away. What did they say prophase meant?
So pro means before. So prophase is before the separation of DNA. We're setting it free. Can't separate it if it's trapped, so we're setting it free. And then this is a picture of an actual cell that is going through the phase. So right here is our cell. This happens to be an epithelial cell. You can see that we still have our nuclear envelope. All of our DNA, this little dark stuff in here is trapped DNA. So we got to get rid of this envelope. And then we have our fibers starting to form. You can see right, let me get my pointer. That'll be much easier to see. So here's my nucleus. We got to get rid of that. Here, this dark stuff inside the nucleus is all of my supercoiled DNA. And then this darker area on either side, those are the fibers that are starting to be created to perform their tug of war. No, I'm not going to do a picture and have you. No, I am not going to have you identify a picture. I'm more interested in that you just understand the concept of what's happening during each phase. All right, we have now set our DNA free, huzzah. And so now what we're going to do during metaphase is we're going to line everything up in the middle, in metaphase. Here you can see the DNA is all nicely lined up in the middle. Here's our picture. DNA is all lined up, just like good little soldiers. And our centromere has attached its little fibers to either side of this DNA because we need to pull one half this way and one half this way so that it can contribute each to one cell. So during metaphase, all of the DNA lines up in the middle. You can see here in this epithelial cell, all of the DNA is lined up in the middle, and our little spindle fibers have attached on either side, and we're going to get ready to do tug of war. During anaphase, oh my goodness, what happened there? Oops, let me fix that real quick. That picture. Oh, come on, stupid computer. I'll have to make it smaller. All right, during anaphase, now we have tug of war. We are going to pull one part of the DNA in this direction and one part of the DNA in this direction. So now we have our exact copies, one going to each side of the cell. You can see down here, this is a beautiful picture. Here we have our cell, and you can see that we have one DNA here and one here, getting ready to contribute to each of the cells, the original and the new. So during anaphase, this is active tug of war. So prophase, we get rid of the nuclear envelope. We start creating the fibers. Metaphase, everything lines up. We attach the fibers. Anaphase, we tug of war the fibers, the DNA apart with the fibers, tug of war. And then the final step is telophase. And in telophase, this is the final step.
Can you go back to the slide? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, that's fine. No worries.
And in the video, they said to use the T for two, because at the end you have two.
Two.
Okay.
Telophase means that we have finished the job. Everything's been pulled apart and we're starting to reform our cell membrane. We reform the nucleus, and then we have two perfect copied little cells.
I have a question.
Yes.
But what's the metaphase, please?
What is the what?
Metaphase, please? This is what the metaphase-
Oh, so that's just where the DNA
Thank you,
lines
the
up.
slide.
That's just where the DNA lines up. Think of it like, remember when you're in kindergarten or when you're in grade school, and they put a piece of tape on the floor and everyone had to line up on the piece of tape? That's what we're talking about here. Think about that with the DNA. They're like, okay, everyone line up. And you have a bunch of 2-year-olds that are just running around like monkeys. Like, okay, everybody get on the piece of tape, or they had a string in my day. Everyone had to hang on to this like skipping rope, and you'd hold on to it and you'd all trot along. That's what we're doing here. Then telophase, TTT2, we're done. Huzzah! We now have our DNA on each end. We are going to go ahead and re-enclose that DNA in its nucleus. We're going to reform our cell membrane, and we are going to now split apart two cells. One cell, an absolute perfect copy of the other. As soon as these cells are done splitting, they immediately go into interphase, which is preparatory. Now, interphase can last, kind of depends. The cell will only actively divide when the body tells it to. Again, we don't want it just randomly dividing for no reason. Interphase is, yes, a preparation, but remember, interphase, we also sometimes call it the metabolic phase. So this is where the cell is just going around doing its job, doing little cell things, preparing for when it's called upon to go ahead and start dividing again. And then the daughter cell can become the mother cell and make a replication of herself. I have a little animation that shows all of this happening that I think is really, really great. And well, for my little visuals, you know I'm insanely visual. Here's a picture though. Here's our prophase. Why do I keep losing my laser pointer? There we go. Here's our prophase. First thing we got to do is set the DNA free. We got to get rid of the nuclear envelope. Metaphase, we line everything up and we attach our spindles, our little fibers. Anaphase, tug of war. You can almost see the tug of war happening. Finally, telophase, we reform our cell membrane and we enclose the DNA in its own little nuclear envelopes.